Good morning. This is a study in the Rainbow Colors of the Bible series. This is on yellow. Yellow is only in there 4 times, okay? One time it's talking about yellow gold, Psalms 68:13. Though you have lying among the pots, ye shall be as the wings of a dove, covered with silver, and her feathers with yellow gold. Okay, the other 3 times, it's talking about yellow, like, in a nasty sense, the pus of leprosy, it sounds like. Okay, Leviticus 13. Read all Leviticus 13. All 3 occurrences of the word yellow are in this story about leprosy. The Lord spake to Moses and Aaron, saying, when a man shall have in the skin of his flesh arising a scab or a bright spot, and it be in the skin of his flesh like the plague of leprosy, then he shall be brought unto Aaron the priest, or unto one of his sons the priests, and the priest shall look upon the plague in the skin of the flesh, and when the hair in the plague is turned white, and the plague be in sight deeper than the skin of the flesh, it is a plague of leprosy, and the priest shall look upon him and pronounce him unclean. If the bright spot be white in the skin of his flesh, and in sight be not deeper than the skin, and the hair thereof is not turned white, then the priest shall shut him up that hath the plague for 7 days, and the priest shall look on him in the 7th day, and behold, if the plague is in his sight at a stay, then the plague is not spreading in the skin, the priest shall shut him up for 7 more days. And the priest shall come and look on him again, and on the 7th day, and behold, if the plague be somewhat dark, and the plague spread not in the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. It's just a scab, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scab spread much abroad in the skin, after he that hath been seen of the priest for his cleansing, he shall be seen of the priest again. And if the priest see that, behold, the scab spread in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It's a leprosy. When the plague of leprosy is in a man, then he shall be brought unto the priest, and the priest shall see him, and behold, if the rising be white in the skin, and it shall have turned the hair white, and there be quick raw flesh in the rising, it's an old leprosy in the skin of his flesh, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean, and shall not shut him up. He's just unclean. And if a leprosy break out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy cover all the skin of him that hath the plague, from his head even to his foot, wheresoever the priest looketh, then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy have covered all of his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague. It is all turned white. He is clean. But when the raw flesh appeareth in him, he shall be unclean, and the priest shall see the raw flesh and pronounce him to be unclean, for the raw flesh is unclean, it is a leprosy. Or if the raw flesh turn again and be changed to white, he shall come unto the priest, and the priest shall see him, and behold, if the plague be turned into white, then the priest shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague. He's clean and has the plague. Leviticus 13:17. The flesh also, which even in the skin thereof was a boil, and is healed. In the place of the boil there shall be a white rising, or a bright spot, white, somewhat reddish, and it be showed to the priests. If, when the priest seeth it, behold, it be in sight lower than the skin, and the hair of be turned white, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It's a plague of leprosy broken out of the boil. But if the priest look on it, and behold, there is no white hairs therein, and if it be not lower than the skin, but somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up for 7 days. And if it spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague. But if the bright spot stay in its place and spreads not, it's a burning boil, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Or if there be in any flesh in the skin wherever there is a hot burning, and the quick flesh that burneth have a white bright spot, somewhat reddish or white, then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the hair in the bright spot be turned white, and it be in sight deeper than the skin, it is leprosy broken out of the burning, wherefore the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. But if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hair in the bright spot, and it be no lower than the other skin, but be somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days, and the priest shall look upon him on the seventh day, and if it spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. And if the bright spot stay in his place, and spread not in the skin, but be somewhat dark, it is a rising of the burning. The priest shall pronounce him clean. It's just an inflammation of the burning. If a man or a woman have a plague upon the head or the beard, then the priest shall see the plague, and behold, if it be in sight deeper than the skin, and there be in it a yellow, thin hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It's dry scall, even of leprosy upon the head or beard. If the priest look upon the plague on the scall, and behold, it is not in sight deeper than the skin, and there is no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut him up that has the plague of the scall 7 days. And in the seventh day the priest shall look upon the plague, and behold, if the scall spread not, and there be no yellow hair, then the scall be not in sight deeper than the skin. He shall be shaven, but the scall he shall not shave. The priest shall shut him up that hath the scall 7 days more. And in the seventh day the priest shall look upon the scall, and behold, if the scall be not spread in the skin, nor be in sight deeper than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scall spread much in the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the scall be spread in the skin, the priest shall not seek for the yellow hair, he is just unclean. But if the scall be in his sight at the stay, and there is a black hair growing upon therein, the scall is healed, he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. If a man also or a woman have in the skin of their flesh bright spots, even white bright spots, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the bright spots in the skin of their flesh be darkish white, then it's a freckle spot that groweth in the skin, he's unclean. And the man whose hair is fallen off his head, he's bald, yet he's clean. And he that has his hair fallen off from the part of his head towards his face, he is forehead bald, yet he is clean. And if there be in the bald head or bald forehead a white reddish sore, it's a leprosy sprung up in his bald head or in his bald forehead, then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the rising of the sore be white reddish in his bald head or in his bald forehead, the leprosy appeareth in the skin of the flesh, he is a leprous man, he is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him utterly unclean, the plague is in his head. And the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent and his head bare, and he shall put a covering on his upper lip, and cry, unclean, unclean, all the days wherein the plague shall be in him, and he shall be defiled. He is unclean, he shall dwell alone, without the camp shall be his habitation be. Outside the camp. The garment also that the plague of leprosy is in, whether it be a woolen garment or a linen garment, whether it be in the warp or woof or linen or woolen, whether in the skin or anything made of the skin, and if the plague be greenish or reddish in the garment of the skin, either in the warp or the woof or anything of skin, it's a plague of leprosy, and it shall be showed to the priest. And the priest shall look upon the plague, and shut it up that has the plague 7 days, and he shall look upon the plague on the seventh day, and if the plague be spread in the garment, either in the warp or the woof or the skin or in any work that is made of skin, the plague is a fretting leprosy, it's unclean. He shall therefore burn the garment, whether the warp or the woof or woolen or linen or anything in the skin where the plague is, for it is a fretting leprosy, it shall be burned in the fire. And if the priest shall look, and behold, the plague be not spread in the garment, either in the warp or the woof or anything of the skin, then the priest shall command that they wash the thing wherein the plague is, and he shall shut it up for 7 more days. And the priest shall look on the plague after that it's washed. And behold, if the plague have not changed its color, and the plague be not spread, it is unclean. Thou shalt burn it in the fire. It is a fretting inward, whether it be bare within or without. And if the priest look, and behold, the plague be somewhat dark after the washing of it, and then he shall rend it out of the garment, or out of the skin, or out of the warp, or out of the woof, and if it appears still in the garment, either in the warp or the woof, or in anything of the skin, it's a spreading plague, and thou shalt burn that wherein the plague is with fire. And the garment, either warp or woof, or whatsoever thing of skin it be, which thou shalt wash, if the plague be departed from them, then it shall be washed a second time, and shall be clean. This is the law of the plague of leprosy in a garment of woolen or linen, either in the warp or the woof, or anything of skins, to pronounce it clean, or to pronounce it unclean. So is your laundry clean or unclean?